This hair. My goodness. I've threatened to chop it off quite a few times. I don't think I've ever had my hair this long in quite a long time. Getting this little... If it wasn't all growing equally, I might feel like I'm growing a mullet back here. But I'm ready for the woods, at any rate, if necessary. Today's theme, take a peek behind the curtain. My beard is long too. I caught a little bit of Hamish's live today, and he was going on about Satanists and lines in the sand and whatnot. The energy has been heavy. That's why I posted that poll, because I wanted to see if everyone was reflecting that the energy that I've felt over the past week has been very heavy. Past week. It's been heavy since the COVID started. It's a forced wake-up call, though. It's not... There isn't any new normal to return to. There isn't any normal to return to. It's literally a case of the curtain being ripped aside, and you just have to look at the thing that's hiding in there. You have to look at it. Everyone has to look at it. And that thing that's hiding in there is a compilation of everyone's fears. Take everyone's deepest, darkest fears, and including put the experiences, all the people that have been tortured, raped, murdered, etc., the people who haven't been heard, the people whose voices have been silenced. As Becky puts it, this energy goes and swoops out to the walls of the cube and keeps this thing together. That energy has to go somewhere, and the balance has to come around at some point. Whether anybody likes it or not, the balance has to come around. So if the pendulum is at a very low point, then it has to come back up. There's never a case where, oh, this atrocity over here, say the Hitler thing, that's just, there's no counterbalance for that. That's just people being atrocious, and karma never came around, and Hitler never paid for his sins, etc. There's always a balance. You just don't see it. But we don't see it. And we can't see it because there wouldn't be any experience. You can't see the thing. Like, you can't, when you're tasting the darkness, you can't have the equal amount of counterbalance of light, otherwise you wouldn't have the experience. So it's necessary, the distortion and the hiding, or what you could term as lies, necessary. That's just weird. If I were to try to explain how I feel about this current situation, I would say high strangeness. The parts that present on the screen, which are it's so multi-layered that it's difficult to speak about one part. without talking about all the other parts. For instance, if you have a majority of the population in sleeper mode, NPC mode, organic, portal, they're backfill people, like there's a bunch of names for these props, etc. If a majority of the population is composed of those, and it seems to be, especially with this current little shitstorm that's happening, and the fact that so many of them seem to be docile and totally fine with donning the mask, even if it's fully counterintuitive. If that is the case, then not denying that internally and externally, because the government doesn't declare, hey guys, 90% of you are basically matrix creatures, and you don't have what's called internality. And if you yourself aren't acknowledging that, then that's part of the lie for you. That's just one little piece. I mean, the puzzle is infinitely intricate. But it becomes silly to... It's difficult to have a conversation unless you've explored each and every possible rabbit hole that comes up when you're searching. And of course you have to release those at some point, but the knowledge of what you saw or felt remains with you. But if you're talking to someone who hasn't gone into the first rabbit hole, or isn't even aware of rabbit holes, you can't even have a conversation with them. I'm trying to get comments through my phone because I haven't looked at them yet. But the mask thing is a slippery slope. Devin Madgie? Someone please wake me up from the nightmare. Devin, his information is compelling, but I feel that he suffers internally. Hey, Teresa. I was wondering about one of your most recent vids. Oh. Yeah, Hey Rachel, that was the most recent one, and I haven't made a video in a while, partly because the energy has been really heavy, and I don't like to get on here and complain for the most part. Andrea gets all that. And again, like, there's not a whole lot really to say. Every time I get up on here, it's just like a exploration. I'm not ever gonna get on here and proclaim one way or the other way, because I know it's all opinion. Deafin mad guy. Yeah, it's bogus from front to back, top to bottom. It's if you made cognitive dissonance into like a brick, and then you took all of the bricks that the news puts out and that businesses are apparently complicit on, and you built like a house, and then you went and lived inside of that house, that's like what COVID is. So the news has been building this house for you, and you've either been believing it or not, and secretly they swapped out your actual house for this COVID-19 house that's built out of individual cognitive dissonance bricks. Could you elaborate on what you mean with energy feeling heavy? Yeah, it's an actual heaviness. And if you are what could be considered a free spirit, your critical thinking element of your brain hasn't been destroyed or taken over by the beast, or you have what's called common sense that they say isn't so common. If you feel empathy, if you feel love, etc., compassion, if you're not a robot, if you are one of these individuals and you feel internally like something is just off, or you feel something is trying to pull you in the opposite direction, and that could either surface inside of you as a feeling of apathy, or a feeling that you're being attacked all the time, or your dreamscape is fucked or interrupted all the time. That's what I mean by feeling heavy. Like the things that compose your internal spirit self when you feel like the outside world is either not acknowledging or looking at it or actively at war against that type of energy. That's the heavy feeling I'm talking about. Density. Yeah. And what the media is doing, it's arbitrary. The COVID thing is not something that's like, it's been building forever and time was just right. It could have been anything. They could have made up anything. And it is, because I've always said this, and that's, what's up, Thomas? I've always said that literally every single viewpoint can be argued logically. All viewpoints. The Satanist viewpoint, the Jesus viewpoint, the Buddhist viewpoint, Islam, all the religions can be logically defended. My own viewpoint, which is essentially stay in the center, can be defended. Solipsism can be defended. This is a dualistic realm. Every single thought that comes out can be defended. All of it. So it's really a matter of, in the game of making shit up, which is reality, it's who makes up the better shit. Like, who... They're making it up, clearly. Clearly it's a bunch of horse shit. Very obviously. And yes, you could argue that if we're in a grand play, you know, the grand arena, that, like Aurora says, there are good musicians and there are bad musicians. You could say, hey, the ones that perpetrated COVID are like the most atrocious musicians I've ever seen or heard of. They've somehow convinced the whole world to feel ugly and guilty of some sin that they don't even know the cause of. It's arbitrary. But each individual who has internality, like internal sense of awareness, and all the creatures here don't have that. They just don't. If you have that, then what is truth is just whatever is feeling inside of you. You feel like, yeah, I feel this way. My body hurts today, or my body feels great, or I think all these COVID people are full of shit, or I think we should deport Bill Gates, or anything. Like, Bill Gates is not a doctor. Why is he talking about vaccines? He's a computer guy. Oh, okay. We're trying to move into transhumanism, so he's just getting ready to fix us up with our first update, right? Any story can make sense. And as far as what's actually going on, there isn't anything actually going on. It's a collective shared hallucination. Like, you could say that what we're all sharing here is a collective psychosis, because it looks so insane. We know what love feels like. We know what true compassion feels like. all these things we know, but we're seeing the opposite of that for the most part. We're seeing the Satan creature, that whoever the great deceiver has the stage right now. I mean, I can share that as far as this 3D life, the insanity makes me think about where's land, where can we have land where we can just work the land and not be dependent on the beast mind, the beast machine. Of course, it's difficult when you're not making that much money, and you're not making that much money if you've been, true to yourself, because the beast thing runs this whole economy. Like, it's an upside down. You have to start looking at the truth at some point, and like right now it's super obvious. Corporations, if you look at COVID as some sort of a lie or a cover up or whatever, you have to dishonor yourself to some extent, and I'm doing it. Like, I'm working for a company that's forcing this, so I'm actually playing the hypocrite because I have to make money. And everyone who's, you could say this is like a point where you have to take a stand, or you could say I'm going to wait till it gets more ridiculous and they actually bang my door down and try to force me with a vaccination. But I think more importantly is making yourself okay with whatever you're doing. I made it okay for myself to wear the face diaper. I had plenty of times where I asked people logical questions at the store, on the bus, where I wasn't wearing a mask. I tried both sides. And for the most part, people just pushed back when I was saying anything about the masks being ridiculous. Sometimes I got active rage. Like the one time I did it on the bus, I walked up to him to say thank you for expressing your opinion on this mask thing. And the guys that wield the dick of the law, the force guys, they don't like it when someone politely, interacts with them, because that system of force doesn't interact with humanity and compassion. It interacts with the ever-changing landscape of conceptual law. But when I went up to, because he was like, how come you're not wearing a mask? And I said something about particulate size. This was before I heard the counter argument that even if the COVID particle is tiny, that it's carried through water droplets, which would get stopped. But that brings a whole other slew of arguments up. The most important of which is that you're creating like a swamp inside of your face mask that's filled with these COVID contaminated water droplets. And if you're just breathing it out into the air, it's going to dissipate or die in the sunlight. They're all cognitive dissonance. All the arguments. But yeah, I tried, and when I went up, I actually went up in the bus to thank him. I didn't wear the mask because he was mad that I didn't. He was like, he said, I want you to acknowledge me. There's a sign there that says, please wear the mask, and there's masks right there for you. I don't want you're disrespecting me by not saying anything. And I said, I enjoy oxygen. And I didn't put it on. And at the end of the bus ride, I walked up to him and I said, thank you for sharing you were upset that I was essentially ignoring, your edict as a bus driver. And I said, thank you for speaking up. I was still doing my best to turn it to where he could feel some sort of empathy or compassion for another human being. I wasn't being, how my energy is. I'm not instigating things all the time, but I will speak up. And he didn't take the opportunity to speak with another human being and look into their eyes and share that energy. He said, "You're could you please keep your 6 foot distance?" And he was just like radiating rage. So I said, "Okay, thanks, and have a good day." And that was that. But I don't know what is the correct stance to take. What's the correct stance to take when every single corporation, for the most part, and that's where we get all our food, when every single corporation is drawing the line in the sand for this thing, which is, to me at least, clearly a bunch of bullshit. You know, what are you going to do? Are you a Gnostic? I'm not anything. Like, I dropped all the labels a long time ago. Every single label that you can call yourself doesn't come close to what we are as life itself. Doesn't come even close. Life itself is so far outside of every conceptual cage. You're disrespecting yourself by calling yourself anything. And calling yourself the straw man thing, that's just the first level of the prison. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper up inside your own mind. Labels are for jars. Yeah. Yep. That's true. Kanye says you can get 100 acres in mid-America for $100,000. Andrea was just looking up someplace in North Carolina that it was, I think, $123,000. It had a tobacco barn in the back. There was a house on there. It was like 10 acres or something. And they're requiring $10,000 down and I think like $700 a month for the first year, and you have to have arranged like a mortgage or something by then. But it was a pretty good deal. Hey, Susie. So it is frustrating because when you've gone through all of these rabbit holes, when you've gone through all the self-work, when you've unraveled this knot, like how they talk about in Dark, if any of you guys have seen that movie, that Netflix series, it's really good. You start unraveling all these things, and you realize that, yes, I am life itself, pretending to be a human, whatever that means. And yes, there are a bunch of pitfalls with that, like, don't put yourself up on a pedestal and declare that you're God, because you will be playing that role, and someone will probably crucify you, because that's, look back in history. Be careful of the whole ego thing, because the ego follows all of existence through all the levels, and spiritual ego is super subtle and hard to detect, and it still is within us. But there is a way to play the game of let's make 3D life together that honors what it is that we are internally and what this manifest world is, and that also knows at the same time, yes, it's all ephemeral, it's a puff of dust essentially in eternity. And yes, mind virus, it's real. Like, insanity is real. I've been through the mind virus. I essentially survived it. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I hold that knowledge for the people that don't have to go through it. And a lot of people have done things similarly that Jesus himself, if he was a being, he did something similar. Like, he took all this thing, lived through all this. And if you do look to the Gnostic Gospels, he's just saying, you're all my brothers. You're my brothers and sisters. And whatever it is that I am, it's nothing special. And any of you can and will do greater things even, he said. So, like, there's not anything that's complicated to me. There's nothing that's really battling against anything. You could say, oh, overall, it's light versus dark. It is. There is evil. Like Brian may be watching. He's my younger brother. He said today, like, I didn't believe in evil, but this thing he was showing me, he said, this is actually evil. So, and he's been doing his own thing, and for the most part just wishing to be free and not be harassed by this, that, and the other thing, which is a very difficult feat to pull off nowadays. But he's looking at things in a slightly different way that I haven't seen him, and it's a good thing. If family members can start peeking behind that curtain, it's necessary to peek behind the curtain. If you don't do that, it's like this situation will devolve itself into a nightmare. Most definitely. Hey Nigel, what's up? Joe, hello. I think my whole family must have taken the vax in the future and is retroactively affecting them now. I've heard of that one. I mean, if you listen to Og, he's also said that, like, at the end of the thing, what was untrue, or the people that were living that parasite lie, you will see that they weren't ever real. There wasn't anything called spirit in them, or source, or soul, or anything, and they were just matrix creations, and they just never existed. You will see that. Og's story is just another story. Like, everyone is just telling stories. Like, if we actually, like, let the beings, each and every being is expressing what is truth. It's truth. Even what the automatons are spitting out. You know, everyone's heard of that video where all the broadcasters say the same thing. Even that is expressing some sort of truth. It's saying automatons exist, and they say the same fucking thing over and over ad infinitum. And it may come to some sort of situation where living beings have to declare, I'm a living being, I'm not a matrix creature. I have different needs and different ways of being than these matrix creatures, and I'm not even involved in this situation anymore. Like, yes, I saw that I had to play certain roles, and I had to put certain labels on myself to play that for a while. But if it gets too dark and heavy and retarded, like this COVID thing, it's just silly and stupid. Like, measures of control for what? So we can have the Hitler thing happen again, you know? It's silly. It's nonsense. It's a joke. It's barely worth talking about. And that's what I'm saying, like the curtain, right? It's barely worth talking about in terms of, like, creativity and beings that literally create existence out of thin air, out of nothing, because at the core of the moment is literally the 0 point. Like, this is pretend. In terms of that, this thing that's presenting, called COVID, it's silly. It's like you would, if it was being perpetrated by a creator being, that being has to be, like, asleep or tortured, having a really stupid nightmare. It's not something that all of the living beings would say, yeah, this is great, this is lovely, I love putting this face diaper on, and yada, yada, yada. It's just not something that would happen. It's nonsense. And yes, you can rationalize it by saying it is the evil cabal trying to take over the world and take everyone's freedom away. Yes, you can do that. But the evil cabal doesn't have any consciousness in it. So it's not fulfilling the living beings. Even if you're watching it as a 3D play that you're literally a part of, that you're one of the members of the play. It's not fucking interesting. It's stupid. Bad joke. Yeah, it's a bad joke. We literally can do anything. Like, we can get up and walk down the street, proclaim, I'm done with all this robot nonsense and I'm going to go live in the woods. We could all band together and make something creative. And yes, we would be warred against. But that's an option. Like, bunch of living people say, hey, I know I'm in the Matrix. I know most of you guys are robots, and I'm not agreeing with any of it. And if you need to come, bring an actual physical battle to us, then go for it and just see what happens. Like that is an option. For the most part, all of the living beings have just, they just got like this like mouth dropped open looking, because it's like, I know I said anything can be rationalized or apologized for, like apologetics. That's what the fact checkers are doing. Like Andrea pointed out, they're doing apologetics. I saw one of the fact checkers said, no. I know it says directly on the box that this does not protect you from COVID-19. And the fact checker said, and while that is true, that's not the purpose of it. That's not where the protection comes from. You're protecting everybody else. Right? And a mind that takes that at first blush would say, like, yeah, I guess maybe, yeah, I'm protecting everybody else. Even if you didn't look back in recent past and see nobody's ever done this as a response to an actual sickness. Every single person, healthy people included, wearing masks in the car. All the arguments that come up, like, do I wear a condom in the car while I'm driving down the street? No. Should I? Maybe. For your protection. I might have a wet dream while I'm driving down the street and accidentally spray some jizz on you and get someone pregnant. I better wear a condom. That's the level of stupidity. I have an appointment at 3, so I can't do this for too much longer. But the elephant in the room is going to thrash around till everybody looks at it. Hamish is right about that. Like, you can't just be silent forever. It's gonna, there is this whole place is like a living sickness. It has been for a really long time. And we're here to clean it up. And it's very intricate, and a lot of memories had to be wiped, a lot of minds had to be erased. The mind virus literally makes your lived consciousness a living hell, and if you don't find the 0 point, you just perish. Like, it's not a joke. The stuff that goes on here, that has been going on here, like the deepest of the dark that has happened here, is very real. It's very real. But at the same time, like, the deepest of the darkness is still like a little drop in the infinite ocean that is this thing that just goes and goes and goes. It's not starting anywhere and it's not stopping anywhere. And it feels like COVID is this big thing that, like, are we going to make it through? It's like, it's a little drop. You do have to think about, like, what's the bigger picture sometimes. And, like, we're here. we are literally in the body. We look outside and it's like, what the fuck? And, we have to make a living somehow. We have to support our families. We have to not go insane, etc. There are a lot of battling frequencies. And, you got to do it. you got to live your life. Or you go jump off a bridge. Like, that's an option. Of course. Jump off a bridge if you need to. Not like you're going to go anywhere, but probably into a deeper layer of the nightmare. Hey, Rin. What we don't know is an ocean. Yeah. Existence itself can't be put into concepts, so as long as you're using this conceptual mind, you are literally mentally masturbating, and you're ignoring the actual existence, which is infinity, and it's you, and it's always available. This whole thing is a mirage. Like, even if someone comes banging your door down and says, take this or else, like, it's still a mirage. It's still ephemeral, it's coming, it's going. All you gotta do is be like, where did the last 5 minutes go? Like, I've been here for 5 minutes. I remember doing something in the 5 minutes, but that existence is completely gone, as if it never existed, except in my own mind, which means the physical existence has somehow turned itself into a mental memory. And somehow the totality of that is like me and this experience. And if you haven't gone into that, then you still think a bunch of shit is real. And really, it's not any of it's real. Make sure the bridge isn't too tall. What's up, Eli? He wears a condom at all time for safety. Yeah. I listen to J.P. Spears occasionally. Silence is violence. You need lots of popcorn. You need lots of popcorn, essentially. And interact with other living beings. Like, isolating. Look, the beast is telling you directly. What is he telling you? He's saying, okay, number one, don't talk. Don't express yourself. That's the first one. And number two, stay away from other humans. So, take what he's telling you, because he's definitely full of shit, and say, okay, what does that mean? I should go give, the people that I love hugs, and I should express my feelings, like I'm doing here. Pretty simple. Yeah, it's a relationship. You're in it, you are it. You're the horrors and the goods and all that shit all mixed up. And if you don't acknowledge that, then you literally, it's like you're creeping over to one corner pretending like all that shit out there has nothing to do with me. Stay away. When really it has everything to do with you, and it couldn't exist without you. You got an actual bag of popcorn? What is FOS? I don't know. FOS. I mean, we could be creative with that acronym, I guess. Like, essentially, it's us. If we stay by and stay complacent, it will just keep getting stupider. And maybe it will get violent, I don't know. Maybe it will at some point, we'll be marching toward a German-style oven, and they'll be like, this is for your safety, actually, and etc. Here's a mask for you while you're walking in. And then it's like, bye-bye this particular body-mind. For what? Do you want that? All ego clashes are silly bullshit. And all power here in the 3D realm is ego bullshit. 100% ego nonsense. The guys that sit there and draw imaginary lines on an imaginary map and say, like, I own all this, even if they have a bunch of imaginary ones and zeros in their imaginary bank account. It's fake power. They come and talk to someone like one of us, they talk to me about the whole thing. They won't be able to actually have a conversation because they're pulling from this artificial power. Glue all the popcorn. I liked the guy that put like a greenhouse. He made this whole. He had plants in the back and in the front. He was literally like a walking planet. Which we are anyway. I need to see something right quick, like. 8 minutes to get there. So I have a few more minutes here. It's real. Like, yes, it's real. Yes, it's also fake. It's everything and it's nothing. The 0 point is nothing, and the physicality is everything. And that's they rest inside of each other. You can flow to one way or the other inside of your own self anytime you'd like. And anyone that's expressing a viewpoint with violence, hidden internally, and they're trying to get you to believe in it, they're literally declaring, I don't have power to make this feeling, this opinion, this whatever. I don't believe it enough myself. I need you to believe it too. That's actual violence. Like, outside of this realm, which is just, for the most part, a farm and consciousness abusing place for other beings that we're not seeing. Outside of, it's illegal. Like, there are galactic laws, and this type of shit has to be terminated at some point, and the bad guys go to jail or whatever. They get refreshed or dissolved or whatever. All that, there are cosmic, there is some sort of karma, there is retribution or repercussions for actions, every single action you ever do. Nothing ever goes unseen forever. Maybe for a little while, maybe you think, I murdered and raped this little girl and it felt great. And I don't like anyone else knowing about it, so I erased it from my own memory. Like, the Godhead sees everything you've ever done, everything you've ever thought of. You are it. Like, you're hiding from yourself. It's stupid. No cigarettes for over 3 weeks. Good job, Joe. Yeah, nowhere also says now here. The whole thing, even the language itself, is a bunch of Russian nesting dolls. But not everyone has seen outside of the limited scope of ego. The ego fully believes that everything is real. It's very scared. Very, very fearful. Is Israel real? I don't know. Like, at a certain point, I just have to be creative in talking, because so many worlds are contained within each and every sentence that you just have to, like, look at the thing that's coming out of somebody's mouth and find some, like, way to groove with that, because even every sentence can be taken in a billion different ways. All these words that have multiple meanings, and then you just... It's like a... What's the mathematical term? When the thing starts getting exponential, when all the layers exponentially do this, and there's no more conversation happening anymore. There's too many meanings, but then at the same time, it's also the opposite. It's also, no, I'm saying something, and if you're tuning into my own frequency, then you like get that exact thing directly delivered. Where do you want to sit or stand or dance? Like, it's always moment to moment an option. The thing about there's nothing to do or say at some point. You go convince a bunch of people about that your idea is correct. Hey, Matt. I think 9/11 was. I think people have looking glass devices. Government has had it, and they looked into the timescape, the parallel worlds, and they saw that this exact event appeared on a bunch of them. Like, it was kind of probably unavoidable. And so the players that had access to this looking glass technology positioned themselves before, after, and in the middle of it, and made themselves rich off of it. Because any bump in the manifest world, bumps create friction. And if you're interested in loading up on fake power, which we call money here, then you'll position yourself and your dumbass business around it to give a bunch of fake power units into your possession. I think that's what 9/11 was about. And of course, fear. Fear is power in the inverted place. But if somebody doesn't have fear, you have no sway over them, and you look like a dumbass. And of course, it can be better. It can be better than this. But when everyone's so far asleep and snoozing down the road with their mask on, it's more difficult to maneuver when most of the surrounding beings are sleepwalking. But at the same time, what are you going to do about that? At a certain point, it becomes violent to shake them and be like, hey, this thing, it's this, look it outside, something's going on. At a certain point, you might be violating their sense of self. But then, if they're an automaton, robot creature, matrix creature, then you're not. But then if they are that, then you're not getting a lot by trying to attempt to change them, because they're not the same energy as you. So it's this is what I go through when I even think of making a decision. Any decision. You're going up against an infinitude of possibilities. And it is, like Alan Watts said, it's you just at some point realize you could never possibly have enough information to make a fully sound and valid choice, scientifically and logically speaking, because there's too many variables and they all exponentially go off into infinity. So you're either going to do this and hide, or you're just going to say fuck it and randomly pick one, or pick one that just resonates or feels right, or go with your gut, or something like that. Yellow book. I'm not sure what you mean. A good vegetable soup, yeah. Vegetable soups are good. The only way humans could have pulled that off was some crazy time travel. Yeah, I mean that's what Looking Glass was. Yellow Book, etc. Psychics. I mean, people can see into the... You can be creative and find out ways how 9/11 could have happened. Andrea has been selling all kinds of stuff. Let me shout her out real quick. Just because I like helping creative people. I don't know how to find her though. I guess I would go to my own YouTube. Give Andrea a quick shout out in the last few minutes. Your channel, community. Oh wow, 85% of the people are feeling it. It's a 4 out of 5. 13 votes. Okay, Okay. Water Scries. Let's see. Hazel and Sage Academy, that's what it's called. She's got 15 sales. I'm very proud of her. This is the link. Let me know if you guys can see that up in the chat, or let me know if it's clickable if one of you could. I know a lot of artsy true artists, like true creators, get suppressed, so I'd like to do my best to give them out, give them a little help sometimes. So let me know if you guys can see that link and or if you can click it. And these are the latest creations. She's just been going like nuts, like she doesn't stop. Midnight Mountain Resin pendant necklace. She made a whole mountain range and galaxy out of an avocado pit. Look at that. This is 3D. These are actual, I don't even know what she put in there. It's a galaxy though. Smoothed over the back. I mean, her art is amazing. Kind of surprised she's not in the community watching and commenting, but she is at work. Freya's Tears. Like, she puts her heart and soul into these things. I know a few of you have bought some of these, and thank you to those of you who have. I know Rebecca bought something. Second purchase of this beautiful artist, so creative. It is beautiful and so very unique. It shipped all the way across from West Coast to East Coast in a few days. This is indeed a treasure. I think she has someone actually internationally asking for one. But if you want to get it and you're international, you'll probably have to pay like $10 in shipping or $15. I'm not sure how much it actually is. But yeah, if you feel like getting something absolutely unique and amazing that will never be repeated, go to this here, support Andrea, which is also supporting me. And yeah, but it's about time for me to skedaddle here. I see you, Nigel. Take care, brother. Too much coordination, coincidence. Directed energy weapons, yeah, that shit has been used everywhere. Support the people that are real and that help you feel alive, and the rest of it, just look and see what it's there for. Everything is here for something. If it's there to push you, as a negative force pushes us just as much as positive force, sometimes more. But I would say one of the more important elements or ways of treating these types of situations like we're currently in is acknowledgement. Like, just look at it. Say it out to yourself. Say like, wow, the whole entire world is wearing masks, like baby diapers. And I heard that in the Denver airport, there's a mural that has like everyone wearing masks, children with, different flags on each of one of them. They said it was like 1994. Like, how does that possibly, did they know about this mask fiasco that was going to happen? And then you have Out of Darkness, I think, the book, forgot the name of it, one of those popular authors, but it's been hinted at. They tell us everything. The nasty, the dark ones, they apparently have to tell us everything, and they do it sort of secretly. But I gotta go, so I'm not late to this. So thanks for hanging out. Just know that the energy is dank and dark, and a lot of people are feeling super isolated, and the ones that you love do need you, and they need just interaction. You don't even have to necessarily talk about, the nonsense that's being perpetrated and this and that. You don't have to go down the rabbit holes. Just go connect with people. Whatever the beast is telling you to do the opposite. Wasn't me, but I'm internationally as well. Yeah, she will ship it to you guys. Whoever wants to order anything from her, it's just she has to find out the price to ship internationally, and they're really light, so it wouldn't be too bad. It might be an extra $10. I'm not sure, but she could sell tinfoil masks. All right, guys, take care. Much love. Be nice to each other. Peace.